Welcome to Cosmic Imprint, a podcast bringing you weekly goodness as the home of lightworkers, new paradigm leaders, sensitive souls, magical beings, spiritual seekers, and both spiritual CEOs alike, who are ready to live life in alignment with your own soul's truth and who are here to buck the trends, color outside the lines, thriving in this lifetime's incarnation. Join me each week for conversations about all things human design, weaving my own soul magic where I'll share my intuitive gifts, love of all things metaphysical, manifestation, mindset, fifth dimension, spirit guides, light beings, and beyond. Let's explore your cosmic imprint together. Hi! How are you, my lovely? Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Cosmic Imprint. My name's Rose. If you haven't hung out with me before, oh my God, thank you for listening in. For those of you who've been around for quite a while on the podcast, you're amazing. I love you and appreciate you so much. And as always, thank you for listening in. And I'm coming here with a bit of a, let's say, just off the cuff, grab the microphone, grab my coffee, sit down and have a chat as if we were basically hanging out in a cafe. I would be ordering a coconut milk latte large, just FYI, and probably some sort of delicious gluten-free and dairy-free treat because hashtag gut health problems. Anyway, I just wanted to come and chat because if you're looking for, I should probably say, if you're looking for a kind of more training specific resource guide, this might not be the episode for you. But if you're here for the in real life, human to human, let's talk about where the 5D meets the 3D and intertwines, and we get to talk about all the real life stuff behind being a soulpreneur, then get comfortable and grab your own cuppa, and I'm so happy for you to be here joining me. So yeah, let's have a chat about just life in general, because I know that for some of you, you've probably, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you might have noticed that the last few weeks of podcast episodes haven't been coming out on a particular sort of, let's call it like strategic regular schedule. Like the podcasts have been coming out each week, but there's a great deal of variability as to when they're coming out each week. And you know what? That's been a really big permission slip I've given myself just in recent weeks to take the foundational core approach of what I feel good producing and creating in my business, because I bloody love recording a podcast, and honestly it's been the most incredibly expansive thing for me on so many levels to have this podcast. However, as you might have, if you've listened to the recent episodes, I've been doing the series on the arrows in our human design chart and the fact that I'm a quad left with all my arrows. It kind of means that sometimes I get too, let's say, like rolled up in the strategic, tactical, divine masculine energy of everything. And what I realized I was doing was I was holding myself to this perfectionist standard around this podcast that was that every episode had to come out each week on a Tuesday, and I had to make it happen so that it was a Tuesday every week because, you know, that was where my divine masculine was kind of like hanging out in that not so positive vibrational expression that was going, well, people are expecting it to drop on a Tuesday. If you don't be consistent and have it always on the same schedule, you know, people are going to think that this is not worth tuning in for, blah, 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 blah. Right. And then once I gave myself that permission to kind of break free of that chain that I had put around myself. You know, no one else had given me that sort of self-imposed structure and deadline and, you know, rigid set of circumstances that I was trying to uphold. And what it allowed me to do was realize that actually, you know what, if I look at my own habits when it comes to listening to podcasts, right? I do not have any kind of set routine when it comes to listening to podcasts. I will listen to them if I'm in the car on my own. I always listen to podcasts or Audible, my audiobooks. I don't listen to the radio. I know that some of you might be like throwing your hands in disgust, but it's just not my thing. I'm kind of all about like finding those times when I get to have alone time that I can use for self-development and mind expansion and learning. And I love that. Like, I fucking love that. I love music for certain times of my life, but if I'm on my own and I'm driving, like, fuck yes, put on a podcast that I love, put on an audiobook that I'm really into, and I am so happy. So happy. Anyway, and also so inspired. Like, that's the other thing, is it really gets my creativity and my like inspiration flowing. And what I realized is that I have no set routine to that. And I honestly, out of all of the podcasts that I subscribe to, I could not tell you what day of the week those drop. I could not tell you if they are once a week. I could not tell you if they're twice a week. I could not tell you if they're once a month. Like, so why was I expecting myself to kind of deliver something on this very rigid, formal schedule when in fact I know that for 99.9% of you, you are vibing on the same wavelength as me, that you probably drop in and listen to a podcast or two, or maybe, you know, half a podcast as and when you can. It's not a, oh my God, it's Tuesday at 9 a.m. so-and-so's podcast is released, I'm going to listen to it straight away. Like, who fucking does that, right? No one. Actually, I'm going to put like in little like virtual brackets here. Like, if that is you, you're amazing. Like, you are an epic human being if you are that dedicated to listen to someone's podcast. Like, that is the fucking coolest thing. And I hope you tell that person who produces that podcast that you're there waiting for it. Anyway, close bracket. That's a little tangent. But yeah, so that's been something that was a big permission slip for me to give myself. And so here I am. I've got my coffee in hand. I had intentionally, you know, carved out some time, and we're going to hang out and talk about just real life stuff, because I think that's really important that we're able to do that. So in many ways, the past month, 2 months in my business, you know, behind the scenes, has been really a season of taking a step back, allowing space. It's the, you know, in the essence of our universal laws, right, that we talk about creating a vacuum so that the universe can fill it with something new, right? And also of just that deep gratitude for where I am, you know, a year compared to a year ago as a soulpreneur, being kind to myself, and really always just returning every day to the essence of what is it that I am envisaging for myself? What is my vision that I'm holding for myself as a soulpreneur? What is my truth and what is my direction I'm going in? Because as I know, like, you will be nodding along listening to this, because I know if you listen to my podcast, you're on my vibe when it comes to this, that when we enter and like step into that online space, particularly of social media, it can very quickly get very overwhelming with everyone talking about their wins, their successes, their achievements, what they've done. There's kind of the trend as well I've seen lately of people talking very openly about their business achievements or financials, or, kind of opening the books, so to speak, of how their business has been operating. I fucking love that approach. I think it's really important, particularly for women in business, and, that there is more transparency and more openness and more sharing of the reality, rather than what we've seen a lot in the last 10 years, particularly of the airbrushed reality TV effect, right? Of the fake it, till you make it, or the fake it even if you're not making it approach, right? So I am so fucking here for the open, honest, transparent conversations about, hey, this is what's going on in my business. However, I do also have this kind of like little just uncomfortable feeling about it, from the sense that I can see how it is being packaged to only show the good. It's only showing the highlights. It's only showing the month or the quarter in someone's business that was a win, right? I don't see people who are either like entrepreneurs or soulpreneurs or business owners, women in business, coaches, all of those people who are maybe doing this. I don't see them doing it from a energy of, these are the months when things either were slow or didn't work, or I took a loss, right? And I can totally understand why they're not doing that, but I just want to kind of, I guess, highlight that even though some of these things are coming through with good intention to be honest and open and transparent and provide, a way for someone like yourself who's maybe a soulpreneur or a soul purpose seeker, or is thinking about starting something, or has already started something, maybe has been running it for a while and is still growing, that the intention is there to give you something to connect to, or to aspire to, or to see how it works in reality. But just bear in mind that it's quite often still only celebrating the wins. And, certainly for myself in recent months, taking that step back consciously and intentionally after, for me, what was a very full-on end to the year and beginning of 2021, with serving my incredible group of women who have gone through Ascend, which is my human design reader training course. And, really intentionally showing up and serving them, the people I was giving soul notes readings for. There was other things going on for me in terms of business connections and new ventures, and taking the first steps with pulling together our retreat center that my mum and I run. And, so there was a hell of a lot going on for me in the kind of IRL space, right? The 3D tangible in real life space. And I just was, and probably still am, finding that, I say was, but I will be honest here and say that I am still finding social media to be too noisy for me right now. And I'm the type of person, as a mental projector, and I'm also a 6/2 profile, I need a fuckload of alone time, quiet, stillness, space, permission to just kind of be in my own bubble and retreat from the world to be at my best and brightest. And really that permission to give myself the freedom to, be a little bit more flexible with what I'm producing with the podcast each week, to take that kind of intentional step away from social media, just allowing space and kind of just dropping into the void has been so nourishing and supportive for me, and it's just allowed me to get so much more clarity on that direction I'm going in. And I will be like, just so completely honest here and say that it has also come with a lot of having to be very strong in not succumbing to negative thoughts around self-judgment or self-critique, saying, the little like inner mean girl or whatever you want to call it, the inner voice that's, the nasty inner voice, the self-judgment, the conditioning that can easily creep in and go, oh, well, you're doing nothing in your business right now, or you're not actively selling something in your business right now, so you're a failure. I will be completely transparent and say that while I don't experience those thoughts all the time or a lot, they do creep in every now and then, and I'm aware of them, and I know they're there and they're very present. And I'll just say that, I can, because of the depth of awareness and clarity on my own human design particularly, I know that my fear activation is the fear of running out of time. Right. So coming from my splenic center. So straight away, I know that any thoughts like that pop into my mind, or conditioning or self-judgment, is coming from that fear of going, you're not doing anything right now, you're going to run out of time. You're not selling anything right now, you're going to run out of time to do it. If you don't take advantage of this situation right now, you're going to run out of time, and that opportunity is never going to come around again. That's the low vibrational energetic expression for me. And the thing is that that's never going to go away in my life because it's part of my design. It's there. It's, for whatever reason, I've come here with that as a little bit of a motivation, an awareness, a challenge or learning opportunity to always be working through, soul growth opportunity to be working through. And it's also something that I get to reframe and go, actually, you know what? I get to have the awareness of time. I get to be hyper intuitive and instinctive about the timing and the right timing. And I also get to come and sit here and talk to people just like you on my podcast about why time and timing is a completely artificial construct. There is no such thing as time. At the end of the day, we all have our own divine timing. And the more we can trust and allow ourselves to live in alignment with our soul's truth, that there is always plenty of time. It's never too late. You're never too old. You've never run out of time, right? And that's the thing, is that kind of the tangent, I guess, piece of wisdom, the six line in flow here, is that sense of running out of time, quite often for me in my past, and when I'm in my, if I ever drift out of alignment, this is where I know and I'm aware that it shows up, is that it manifests in like always working, right? Especially as a soulpreneur in early stages of your business, you might, or even just, in your day-to-day life, if you work for someone else, right, that can manifest in that sense of like always being on, always working, particularly as a soulpreneur. It's very common, particularly as a female or a woman, it's very common that we feel guilty if we're not always working towards our goals. And I know that so many of you are in that stage in your business, or you're, expanding your business, that you maybe have taken the leap to leave your job, and there's that internal pressure to essentially be back at that level of, say, financial compensation or revenue generation or activity, prosperity, abundance, whatever label you want to put on it, that matches, say, working a 9-to-5 job, for example. And this is where it's the big wisdom piece to go, actually, you know what? you are perfectly safe to not always be working. In fact, you are probably at your best and brightest when you do allow yourself downtime. And I was listening to yesterday while I was driving home, and I had on one of my Audible books, and this is kind of touches on a point that was raised in that book that was talking about how as an entrepreneur, they were referring as an entrepreneur. I talk about soulpreneurs because, we're here following our soul calling or our soul purpose. And it's okay as a soulpreneur to look at your business version of yourself. So let's say, for me, Rose, there is Rose who is the dog mum, homeschool parent, human being, partner, daughter, who employs Rose, the soulpreneur, Rose Totori, who is out in the world sharing resources and has a website and a business and not coaches, because I don't like using the word coach, because that doesn't vibe for me, empowers other people with their human design and their gene keys and on their soulpreneur journey, right? She works for me, but she doesn't get to run the show. The big message in this book was to kind of reframe things to look at, if you can kind of separate out the two, that person who is the soulpreneur, the business, the entrepreneur, the whatever label you want to put on them, they work for you. And if someone works for you, do you expect them to work 24/7? Do you expect them to never take breaks? Do you expect them to never spend time with their family? Do you expect them to always be on their emails or answering phone calls? No. So it's just a little kind of, I guess, permission slip to hand over to you that, especially in the early stages of things, when we're growing, when we're expanding, when we're still kind of finding our feet, when we're still discovering what our soul purpose is even, because hell, we all go through, a number of different learning opportunities where we maybe enter into something that for whatever reason is the learning, the soul growth, and it's not the forever thing, but we go through it, we learn from it, we expand, and then we come to what it is that is our soul calling, our soul purpose, or we get to try out lots of different ways that we can embody our soul purpose. And just to release any sense of comparison that you might be putting on yourself towards others. And that's been a big thing, for me to go, actually, you know what? I can absolutely, hand on heart, say that I don't give a fuck about being on social media every day, right? But it's not to say that I don't still have awareness that comparison can creep in, right? That I don't have that I see that there are other people who are far more present and engaged and on all the time, and who seem to have the capacity to create and schedule loads of content and be putting stuff out every day, to be on their stories every day, all of that sort of stuff that I know when it feels right for me, I can absolutely be that person. That when it's aligned, I can do all of that and more. But for right now, being in the void and in that vacuum is actually way more important to me. And the kind of thing that I wanted to touch on is that, if anything, everything still for me in my business behind the scenes that no one will have seen, because I'm not talking, I'm not that present on social media at the moment. I'm not talking about it on my Instagram or my stories or anything. That, there is still a fuckload of stuff going on in real life for me in terms of my business. So it's by no means that I, the inner bitch voice going, oh, but you're doing nothing. That's not the case. And just to give some tangible examples, because, I can't stand when a podcast I listen to talks about like, this is in real life, this is what's been going on, and then kind of just talks about almost like talks around it, but never actually talks about the actual examples. So let's talk about examples of like, what has been happening for me in real life that has still been going on, even though I am intentionally taking space away from social media. I'm not actively selling anything in my business, things like that. So for those of you who've been around for a while, you know that I still, as a component to the soul work that I do, I have, let's call it a 6-line wisdom role in my family business. It's not even being a manager or anything like that. It is just purely being the 6th line in our family business. So what I mean by that is that I, alongside my mum, we run a retreat center and a historic homestead called Te Kiraroa. And we have been doing various mind food talks and events and cool things like that people come to that are focused on maybe the heritage of the property, sound bath meditations, things like that. We also have, because my family likes to be massive overachievers, it's like a manifestor and generator, hybrid of energy and drive and life force energy. There is also an eco-sanctuary trust development that my parents run and have created, and I'm heavily involved in that as well. So my 6-line wisdom role comes in with that, and has been helping out with various events that are coming up, planning around the sort of the practicals of things within the eco sanctuary. So, say coordinating volunteer groups and ways we can be more efficient with our communication within the trust and things like that. So, that is all kind of also part of my day-to-day of what I do outside of what I do as Rose Totri, hanging out online. And what else? So in terms of human design-y type things, I've been doing various workshops for groups. I've been giving live talks for some groups who are interested in learning more about human design. And I've been doing some one-on-one mentoring around soulpreneur marketing and branding as well. And a really exciting thing that I've been focusing in on in a one-on-one capacity, which isn't something that I am going to be looking to, I guess, continue doing. But in this case, it's for a very, very dear friend who is just the most incredible fucking artist ever, and just bright spark in this world. And so in that case, we had got together and I had offered her the opportunity that we could work together one-on-one. And what that has also been really awesome for is that she's allowed me in return to kind of fine tune and refine what it is that I am going to offer for soulpreneurs in a wider capacity, something that is completely in alignment for me and my energy and my, capacity really for what I can deliver and support people and empower people with to the standard that I uphold for myself, right? So it's a lot, right? Like that's a lot in real life behind the scenes. And so this is where I just want to sort of, I guess, talk about the wisdom of those seasons and cycles, that, you know, it is perfectly okay to have some seasons in your soulpreneur journey or your soul purpose seeking journey. Because obviously I know there's a lot of you who listen who are kind of still in that phase where you're like, hey, I'm just here working out what it is that my soul calling is, and I'm not doing it yet, but I'd ideally love to be within the next, 2 years or something like that. So, it's just that wisdom of seasons and cycles, and knowing that we don't always have to be on. We don't always have to be working. We can also be incredibly fucking successful in our soul purpose, and we don't have to post about it on social media. So if that's one permission slip you can give yourself, is to not compare yourself to others, to not stress about if you're not kind of shouting to the world on social media, or you're not feeling called to, that doesn't feel aligned to you. That's okay. Everyone has their own rhythm, and everyone has their own seasons when it comes to that. And it's okay to be using social media in the way that aligns for you. And just to know at your core, I think this is always the thing I return to time and time again when I talk about this kind of topic on the podcast, is that it is okay to go about doing things the way that aligns for you, but just know that you're coming at it from your truth, right? Your true soul DNA, your design. Because there's a very big difference between not showing up on social media in an intentional, it aligns with you energy, as opposed to, I'm not showing up on social media because I'm fearful, I'm scared, I'm doubting myself, I'm comparing myself to others, I'm just watching what everyone else is doing, and I'm not taking any steps myself, right? So I think that's something that I really want to drive home, and you guys will have heard me mention this numerous times, that the more you can know your own core motivations, your own core fears, within your design, it allows you just to have that deep wisdom about yourself, so that you can know, hey, okay, as a soulpreneur or a soul purpose seeker, am I kind of hiding from the world, or am I intentionally just doing my fucking thing and rocking my thing and having massive, sort of steps forward and intentional progress, and co-creating your desires and dreams and calling them in and manifesting just in that real life 3D space, the offline space. So what has this period of being in kind of the void and in the vacuum produced for me and given me clarity on? Well, one of the things that was immediately clear to me once I sort of gave myself that permission to take a step back, because, again, it's sometimes so hard when we are in the thick of the doing that we can't kind of extricate ourselves from that and just return back to what our overarching vision is. And one of the things that has always been my kind of real, that's in my design, itself, to do with human design, is that I really feel so passionately that this is something that I want everyone to be able to access and know about themselves, and to have an awareness of, to some degree, on par with, say, how familiar astrology is within our kind of day-to-day language. And, just like as we kind of ask each other, like, oh, what's your star sign? What's your sun sign? Wouldn't it be great if people were able to converse about their human design and their profile and their authority and things on that level of familiarity, and that it's something that everyone is able to bring into, that it can like permeate through our lives, whether it's in business, in our family, in our relationships, you know, all of these dynamics that we get to experience as humans, you know, rolling around this earth in our little human suits. So it's very much one of those things that is been at the core of what I am choosing to create, what I'm desiring to bring into reality. And that comes about with creating self-study resources for human design, because ultimately I want everyone to be able to empower themselves. I don't want to gatekeep human design knowledge or understanding behind a investment of a reading, you know, because I'm fully aware that we as soulpreneurs, we tread this fine line between, I guess, sharing our gifts and being so entitled and deserving and you know, it's your right as a soulpreneur to be paid for your gifts, right? Like, we deserve to all be abundant as fuck for what we do, whether we're healers, whether we're intuitives, whether we're guides, whether we're readers, you know, particularly when we get into these sort of more esoteric or woo-woo, you might want to call it, modalities. But at the same time, how can we make things like human design more accessible rather than, you know, because I'm fully aware that it's a privilege to be able to pay, say, between $300 to $400 for a reading. And that reading is 100% reflective of the gifts, the time, the knowledge, the study, the experience. You know, it is an accurate reflection of what is being delivered in that reading. However, you know, I know it's a privilege to be able to afford that and to be able to invest in that and to be able to share that with the world. So I want to create and am creating. I shouldn't say want to, because I already am. To have available self-study style resources that allow for people who feel called to work through empowering themselves with knowledge of their human design in sort of bite-sized chunks, in, you know, classes and audio and PDF resources that allow people to do it in their own time, have these guides kind of easy to refer back to, you know, tucked in your back pocket, so to speak, or in more reality is that it's tucked away in your cell phone, you know, and to have that as something that is really a calling for me, more so than creating, I guess, really complex, in-depth readings that are, I guess, it's with human design, there is so much information. And I think that I'm very aware that to some extent, the readings that I create, because it's just the way I am and I want to give everybody every single detail, right? There was only going to be more and more and more complexity to it, rather than being able to strip it back and just get into the foundational aspects. So this is where the self-study resource is going to be a really beautiful component that allows people to tap into that foundational aspect and then to move on to the more complex, nuanced, detailed parts as and when they feel ready. Because for someone who's brand new to human design, a full reading in the way that I put it together is very detailed and is very nuanced and gets into lots of intricacies and complexities, because #mental projector life, that's just how I roll. And that's what feels right for me and aligned for me in terms of compiling a reading for someone, a chart reading for someone. So that's one aspect that the void has allowed me to get clarity on and to work on. And so for a start, we already have the energy type masterclasses available on my website, and what's coming pretty shortly to be an additional levels in addition to that is going to be self-study resources about authority, self-study resources about profile, and then pretty quickly after that, hopefully, all going to plan, self-study resources about the different centers and chakras within the human design. So basically the shapes of your human design chart, the colored in ones, the defined ones, the completely white ones, whether they're undefined, that they've got little lines attached, but they're not colored in, or completely open centers and chakras. So energetically, with how those centers and chakras show up within your design, you can kind of mix and match and pick and choose the combination of those that is relevant for you when you take a look at your chart, that you'll be able to pick out the ones that are right for you. And you might only start with one or two and then work your way through others as you feel called to. So this is the beauty of it, right? That we get to dive into as much or as little information as feels right for us at the timing. And kind of, it's a little bit of a like build your own chart reading style, but in a way that is to your divine timing, to your alignment. And I'll just kind of give a little funny, I guess, example of this that is something that I became very aware of, I guess, with giving readings. And this is, again, I guess the blessing and the curse of being a projector is that you see so deeply into other people. And I was very aware that the big, juicy soul notes format for readings was perfect for someone like myself, who is very information oriented. As a mental projector, my ajna just like devours information, wants lots of detail. However, I was aware that for, say, some of my clients, particularly, I'm just going to use the example of Mani Gens because they are the most delicious example of this. Mani Gens are here to go at speed, to work through things quickly, to skip steps, to just get the kind of broad brush detail, the broad brush kind of idea, and then zoom off and take action. A really detailed, like 35-page soul notes, DNA, human design user manual is way too in-depth for your typical Mani Gen, right? So in some ways, I was doing some beings, for their design, doing them an absolute service by producing like the mental projector's version of a human design, thorough, detailed soul notes chart reading. And for other people with their designs, I was actually not serving them in the way that was suited to them because it was too detailed. It was too complex. There was too much nuance to it. And actually what they needed was something that was far quicker and easier to process, to digest, and then take action on. So while I am absolutely an advocate for not trying to please everyone, I also am aware that I want to create things that still within my people. I'm not trying to talk to every single person who's interested in human design in the entire world, right? But for my people, the people that vibe with me, I want to serve you the best and the way that is just so deeply aligned and feels right. So it's a very long-winded discussion about my self-study resources, but hey, that's what we're here for. We're talking about the in real life, right, of being a soulpreneur and how we look at things behind the scenes. So, and then of course, as I've touched on, my human design reader training, Ascend, is available. And Ascend is now something that is a self-study course to work through. For the first round of when it first launched, I did everything live. I worked with an incredible group of women who joined up and went through Ascend with me starting back in January. And it was incredible because we've been able to just kind of work through the course in real time together. And they've been incredible for giving me feedback along the way of what works and doesn't work for them. And we ended up with all we were only missing a reflector. So we had a real excellent, across the board of lots of different styles of learning and lots of different energy types, which was really valuable and really incredible I feel very honored and grateful and privileged to have been their guide for that journey. So Ascend is, a self-study resource for those who want to learn how to read human design charts. So that is something that is also part of this process of just taking a step back and allowing space so that I could just, get some perspective on how I want to share that with the world. And I'm in the process of creating this is just the soulpreneur, kind of like the real deal stuff, that I am in the process of creating essentially what you would call a landing page for that, so that for people who are brand new to maybe me or my world, or, don't know what Ascend is, it gives them all the information. I'm wanting to have on there sort of a taste tester, like a sample of my teaching style with maybe an excerpt from one of the masterclasses in Ascend. Because I think that's really important. Like, I'm a big proponent for learning in a way that feels correct and aligned for you. And I know that my way of teaching human design and how to read a human design chart is going to vibe for some people. And for other people, they're going to want a live experience or a more one-on-one or a more in-depth, in-person maybe experience. And that's okay. So for the people that align with Ascend, it's going to be the perfect vessel for them to step further and dive deeper into human design. So that's working away on, and kind of like we're so nearly there with having that on my website ready to go. So it's very exciting. And then just lastly, the continuation of that conversation about the self-study resources is that I'm creating, at the moment, it's a working title, but a Soulpreneur Blueprint. And what this is going to be is essentially a reading for and specifically designed for soulpreneurs and people who are in that soul purpose seeking stage of, hey, I'm wanting to start something, but I need, a little bit more in-depth clarity about myself and my own soulpreneur soul purpose, right? Soul calling. What is it I'm here to do? What's my vocation? What's my life's work? What's my soul purpose? And diving into lots of things like, for each of us, we have components within our charts, within our design, within our DNA, really, that allow us to see what our, vocation is, what our prosperity code is, to really get that clarity on how we're here to show up and what we're here to embody and be, do, and have in this lifetime. So it's still very much something that I'm refining and working on. But again, with that in mind, that I am sort of trying to step back from being a mental projector and create something that I can deliver for soulpreneurs just like you, that is, at the right level of detail, I think is the best way to put it. Because, as I say, it could end up being a 40-page ebook very easily if I allowed myself to run away with the deep dive down the rabbit hole of human design that I often do. So that's why I'm keeping in mind that I want to do it in a way that is not only sustainable energetically for me, but is also sustainable and at the right level of investment for soulpreneurs, because especially for soulpreneurs who are starting out on their journey, right? We want to make sure that we're not undervaluing ourselves. I'm saying for myself here that I'm not undervaluing my gifts and my talent and my magic that I'm here to share, but equally that it's not at a investment level that is out of reach for someone who is just starting out on their journey. So, money and pricing and all these things are kind of whole nother podcast episodes that I'm going to get into during the year. But yeah, that's just a little in real life kind of example there of something that I'm adding into my offerings, which is again where the space and the being in the void and not actively promoting things for the last little while has allowed me that clarity on kind of returning back to my truth and knowing what feels really good and aligned for me, rather than necessarily looking to other people's way of doing things, other people's pricing, other people's strategy that works for them. But there's no point me comparing myself to them, because we are like apples and oranges, right? When it comes to empowering others, human design, all of that good stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, with my beautiful soul sister that I've been supporting in a one-on-one capacity with her website and her marketing and her branding, that's been something that has allowed me to get a lot of clarity around what I am going to be offering for soulpreneurs as well. That is basically just straight, like hands down, my soul purpose in action. And when I say that's my only channel is the 4323, which is kind of lovingly known in human design as the genius to freak channel. You might have seen it referred to. And it basically just means that that's my divine download channel that allows me to sit in that space of working with soulpreneurs and particularly when it comes to their gifts and their design and how it can be embodied in their marketing and their branding, and say, for example, putting together an online presence such as a website that truly reflects the soul of that person, that soulpreneur. That's something I'm really called towards, and it's no coincidence, because Gate 41, which is artistic and creative expression and magic, and allowing that artistic energy to infuse through everything I do, is my prosperity code. So for me in my life's work, it is all to do with infusing and allowing myself permission to be the artist and to bring artistic expression to everything I do. The more I can do that's my prosperity, whatever prosperity is defined as, right? Because it's not just abundance in terms of money. It is abundance in terms of happiness and joy and freedom. And, prosperity can be so many different things. So that is the key to my prosperity personally. That's why I just wanted to touch on that as well, because I think I'll record another episode about this as well. Sorry. It's like this is where my 4323 channel starts working, right? That I start talking about stuff, and it's what kind of drives more and more ideas. And this is kind of the same thing that happens with me with listening to podcasts and things. So no surprises there as a mental projector with sounding board authority, right? That I'm sitting here talking and like sounding out things. And this is what drives the clarity and the ideas and the, understanding what I'm here to do. So I think I'll record a whole podcast episode about that, my past experiences with, design work for clients, in previous iterations of my soulpreneur journey, and the life learnings from that and the experiences with that have now expanded and given me soul growth and informed me deeper about how I want to show up and serve others by creating things like websites and branding and marketing and things like that, because it's really important to me to share those gifts with people in a way that aligns. That's the crucial part to it, right? And I can talk to the experiences of when I have in the past had a business model that didn't align for me, that was very much set up with, I guess, too much of a focus on listening to the way in which the internet marketing gurus said that you were supposed to set yourself up as a entrepreneur who was, you know, say a graphic designer or a website designer. So we're not just any old entrepreneurs, we're soulpreneurs. So that's why it's so important to me to talk about the reality of how we can live and breathe our soul purpose, but we can still end up doing it in a way that is out of alignment for us. And then we can return to our truth and our clarity about ourselves to know how we can show up and share these gifts in a way that does feel so deeply aligned and just the right fit, right? The golden zone for our soul. Whew, that was a lot. That was a whole lot of chat. That was a long coffee chat, wasn't it? Thank you if you are still here. Thank you so much for listening. I have no idea whether any of that will be of value to you. I hope it has, because I think that these in real life conversations are important. And as much as I also really enjoy giving the sort of more structured trainings or specific tutorials on things, I know that my 6'2" profile needs to kind of come here and just chat, just talk it out and share some of the real life stuff, whether it's messy, whether it's coherent, whether it's, you know, the warts and all. I'm here for it. So without any further ado, thank you so much. Big virtual hugs as always. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go take my dogs for a walk. That's where I'm at. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Lots of love, and I'll see you on the next episode.